So we finally found out what Melania Trump is hiding, and it relates to her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and how she actually met her husband, President Trump. Inside of this video, we're gonna present to you all of the proof of this connection and what actually went down in the past. Plus, one of Melania's very close friends speaks out and has a lot of things to say, very different from what Melania herself has been saying. I'm starting out my day with a nice hot coffee. Let me know what you're drinking as we dive into this video, and thank you guys for subscribing.
Folks, First Lady Melania Trump has gone to great lengths to make sure that the American people do not know the true relationship that she had with Jeffrey Epstein. But now her story, which we all know has been bullshit since the get-go, is completely falling apart because her former best friend, a Brazilian model who has deep ties to the Trump administration, who they had arrested and deported from this country in an attempt to silence her, is speaking her truth and exposing the real relationship Melania Trump had with Jeffrey Epstein. Folks, I'm going to start here because I want to play you this clip of Prince Andrew's biographer talking about the lengths that the Trump administration and Melania Trump went to have a reference removed to her original relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, because it seems very clear that they were dating and that the story that they've concocted about Donald Trump and Melania Trump meeting at a random party and falling in love, the same thing that she repeated in that bizarre press conference she did a few months ago, is complete and total nonsense. Let's dive in here, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what they've been doing with this Brazilian model that they deported from the country.
So here we are with him in Mar-a-Lago, as you see, with Epstein. Sorry, can you see okay? Epstein, a woman called Gwendolyn Beck, who Andrew took to the island, and Melania. I had various references in my book to Melania Trump. Epstein had actually been her lover before Trump, but Trump didn't like that in the book, so he ordered it to be taken out of the book after about 60,000 copies had been printed. So it seemed to be a pretty pointless gesture, but anyway, our publishers did it, but I keep spreading the word.
Very, very interesting right there. So did any of you know that Epstein apparently had some type of a relationship, whether that was a transactional relationship or an actual relationship, before President Trump actually was with her? The question is, how did he meet her? Was it another transaction that was being done that he decided to continue? Or was it they met at a party and fell in love?
So again, I want to make sure that I really put a finer point on that. Prince Andrew's autobiographer had multiple references to the First Lady of the United States now having a sexual relationship with the world's most famous pedophile and sex trafficker, and Donald Trump worked to have it removed. These people at every level of this cover-up and this scandal have done so much work and effort to make sure that you do not know the truth. They have tried to throw information at you. They have lied about the release of files. They continue to not release so many files and videos. The stuff that they have released is still heavily redacted in violation of the law that both Democrats and Republicans passed. They've worked so hard to make sure that you don't see the testimony that Pam Bondi gave. The House Republicans refused to have a camera present to even have her under oath. They did the same thing with Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, just a few weeks ago. They are fighting hard to make sure that you do not know the truth of this. And especially when it comes to Melania, she has acted so squirrely about this. Like, we know, based on multiple people who have come forward, that they met through Jeffrey Epstein. They met at an Epstein party. And yet, if you watch that bizarre press conference that Melania gave about a month or so ago, she was like, we met at a party. We didn't know Jeffrey Epstein. We didn't know anything about him, except it's crap. Like, guys, we know that it's crap, and the American people know that it's crap.
It was actually really strange why she did the press conference, because it didn't seem that there was excessive amounts of pressure on her. So she actually brought attention on herself by doing that press conference, but she must have felt internal pressure that eyes were on her when actually they probably really weren't, at least not too heavily at the time. And she just kind of exposed herself as not being truthful because it was just obviously a bunch of BS what she was speaking.
And here's the thing. It shouldn't be hard if they're innocent. If their worst crime is just being associated with the guy, then they should be falling over themselves to make sure that people knew the truth.
True.
They should be going, here's all the files, here's the data, here's the information that we have, here's what we can give you to show that we didn't do anything wrong, and we're going to help take these people down, and we're sorry that we were ever associated with them in the first place. But they lie about everything. Melania Trump doesn't want you to know that multiple people are saying that she had a sexual relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She doesn't want you to know how deep that relationship went with him and Ghislaine Maxwell. Donald Trump doesn't want you to know how much partying he did with Jeffrey Epstein, even though there's a million photos of the two of them together. Yeah. Just like Howard Lutnick didn't want you to know and never thought you'd find out that he took his family to Epstein's Island, that he started a business with Epstein, bought a house from the guy. That's why he did that insane interview where he said that he was a creep and I wanted nothing to do with him. Now he's arguing that he didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein being a blackmailer, even though he's one of the world's greatest blackmailers, okay? These people lie. Every single one of them is lying, and it tells me that no matter what we know now, whatever we don't know is far worse.
Yeah, and the reason why they're lying is because everyone is guilty of what people are assuming they're guilty of. Now, of course, there are a ton of people who are out there that believe that this is not true, that President Trump was not in any way involved and he was, his hands are clean and all that. There's no actual convicted evidence that he was involved. All we can do is look at the files, look at the facts, and make our own minds up. So I guess that's what we've been doing over the last couple of months. But great points are being made right here that if you're so innocent, you're not going to be saying things like, ignore the Epstein files, get over the Epstein files, move on from the Epstein files. The Epstein files aren't real. I don't know. It just seems pretty guilty.
This group of people, the Epstein class, this small, wealthy, well-connected group of people, they have decided that this not knowing, this cover-up, is better than what's actually in the files, better than whatever the truth was. And I don't know if it's violence, if it's murder, if it's more abuse of little kids, and now the adult survivors who are just demanding to be recognized, but they keep lying about it and the lengths that they're going. And that leads me to this insane story about Melania having a friend of hers essentially arrested and deported in this messy situation. This Brazilian model we're going to talk about in a second, her name is Amanda Unaro. Hopefully I pronounced her name right. But she was married to a Trump administration official. He's since been promoted since they got divorced. She was deported. She was arrested. She's been silenced. Now she's telling her truth. There's leaked audio that confirms this. Let's dive into this Daily Beast article to really get into what Melania Trump has been doing to cover this up. And folks, this is from the Daily Beast, which has been doing exceptional journalism, staying on top of this, doing, frankly, what the corporate media will not do, and staying on top of the Epstein files cover up, because the Republicans are getting away with this. They basically launched this war in Iran to distract you. But let's dive in, because I want to make sure that people have seen this, and I want to make sure that you have the context of just, again, how far they're going to make sure that you don't know the truth. Quote, a former associate of Melania Trump, which, by the way, even that's already like a walk back. Like, they were very close, very personal friends, has sensationally claimed the First Lady was, quote, an escort for Jeffrey Epstein and met the president through the notorious sex offender. Former Brazilian model Amanda Unaro dropped the bombshell allegations on a taped recording accusing her ex-partner, modeling agent turned presidential envoy Paulo Zampoli, of lying about introducing Melania and Donald Trump at a party in 1998. There's obviously an obvious photo right there of Donald Trump and Melania Trump together with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Melania implied not that long ago and all these images, by the way, are fake and AI generated. They're absolutely not. There are a ton of photos of these people partying together. I know that there are photos that people have created that are fake, but let's be clear. Even though those fake photos exist, there are real photos that show that these people were basically a power couple inside, two power couples inside the Epstein class. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. The story of how Melania Nas, I think it's how you say her maiden name, is later met her future husband while working as one of Zampoli's models in New York, is now part of MAGA folklore. It is something the First Lady referenced when she held a surprise press conference in April, mysteriously denouncing what she claimed were, quote, mean-spirited and politically motivated lies, linking her to the late child trafficker. But in her recording posted on X overnight, Unaro, who has been locked in a bitter custody battle with Zampoli for months, disputes this version of events. You can see this here that she posted. This is just a screenshot. Let's tell the public, you never was the one who was introducing Melania to Trump. It was Jeffrey Epstein, and she was the escort of Jeffrey Epstein. That's how she met Donald Trump, Unaro claims in the WhatsApp recording. And I know because I was with you 20 years, and you always told me it was not you, it was Jeffrey Epstein, she added. Now, again, none of us really know what the truth is. Let's be really clear about that. I don't know if Melania Trump was actually an escort. I don't know what her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was. But what I do know is how many times we've been catching these people lying, how hard they've worked to not tell the truth. And these people lie about everything, okay? Like the term MAGA folklore was used in this article, right? There's so much MAGA folklore out there about Donald Trump and his people and all of this that they just repeat over and over again. And what they do is they throw spaghetti at the wall and they see what sticks. And when we talk about Epstein, the one that I always remember is I remember when Speaker of the House Mike Johnson claimed over a weekend that Donald Trump was an FBI informant who was trying to take down Jeffrey Epstein. He stuck with that life for about 2 days before he walked it back. But to me, that's a classic example of the way that this version of the Republican Party works, the way the MAGA movement works. They say whatever the hell they want. They see what sticks. They see what stupid thing they can get people to argue with. They see what they can get their MAGA influencers to run with, and then they see where they go. They let the chips fall where they may, and then they double down on the stuff that they think is gaining a little bit of traction.
All right, now Mike Nellis, who's the creator of this video that we're watching right now, clearly is not a Republican supporter, which is fine. We have, both sides of the fence everywhere, wherever we are. I just want to make it very clear that what I'm hunting for right now is to find out the facts, the truth, the evidence that Melania Trump was actually introduced to President Trump by someone within the Epstein network. And I want to try and find out if she was actually inappropriately with Jeffrey Epstein herself as well.
That's what that was an attempt to do. And most likely, Donald Trump has known since the minute he decided to get into politics that his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was a major, major anchor around his neck, okay? And that's why he created this bullshit story about how he met Melania, okay? And none of us believe it, okay? Even people in the MAGA movement know that this story is complete and total bullshit, but they keep running with it. And so we've got Prince Andrew's autobiographer who years ago reported on this. We have a lot of other people who have said this too. Now we've got Amanda Unaro saying the same thing, and she has been punished for speaking out on this. And it's just, again, it's so incestuous. And I'm going to go down a little bit further, but the thing I'm going to add before I dive back in is I want you to remember that we are still talking about such a small, tight-knit circle of very wealthy, influential people. The Epstein class is not a lot of folks. That's why when you look at Donald Trump's administration and all the people who surround it, and you're like, wow, they're all on the Epstein plane. They were all on the files. They were all doing this. They were all on the island. It's because it's just a small group of people. It's just a club to them. And they don't really care about partisan politics. They don't really care about government. To them, it's just a way to protect themselves from the laws that govern you and I. Because if you and I acted in the way that these people did on a regular basis, lying, abusing kids, stealing money from the American people, we would go to prison, and rightly so. Because that's the way the system is supposed to work. But if you have enough money and you know the right person, you will never be held accountable. Instead, you'll actually get a promotion inside the administration. You'll become the commerce secretary. You could be Elon Musk, who begged Jeffrey Epstein to let him come to the island, who lied about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and he gets to be put in charge of government spending cuts at the beginning of this term, okay? RFK Jr. has admitted that he was on the plane multiple times. I could go on and on about these people. Steve Bannon has something like hundreds of hours of documentary footage about a documentary he was making about Jeffrey Epstein that he has not released. And as far as I know, the DOJ doesn't have it because the DOJ has never taken this seriously. So again, yes, is this video a little bit speculative? Absolutely it is. But every time we talk about Jeffrey Epstein, it's speculative because they won't tell us the truth. And everybody in this country knows that there is something rotten here. Absolutely rotten. Let's dive back in to this article. The Daily Beast has reached out to the White House and the First Lady's office for comment. Zampoli, meanwhile, told the Daily Beast, quote, "I think it's a disgrace that she dares to say this about our marvelous First Lady." And I'll tell you, number one, the first thing, that is not a denial. That is not my ex-wife is a liar. That is not she's a jilted lover who's trying to get attention in the middle of a messy divorce proceeding. No, that is not a denial. It's just that it's a disgrace that we're talking about this. Because that's another thing that they do. Anytime you ask a tough question, anytime somebody says something that's out of the narrative that they're trying to create, they make it seem like you're the burden for bringing it up. And they never really deny this stuff. It's disgusting. And you can see, again, here's all of them together celebrating New Year's in 2022. Again, these are not people who don't know each other. This guy works inside Donald Trump's administration. He's been promoted. These two are models. They've known each other for 20 years. They're friends. This is a small, tight-knit group of people. And now they're turning on one another. Quote, "I'm truly concerned for her health, and I think she truly needs some therapy," the Trump ally said of his ex. Another thing, MAGA world does this all the time. They do it to women in particular. Anytime women come forward with any accusation, be it domestic abuse, sexual abuse, something like this, it's always their mental health is off. Something is wrong with them. They'll always give you a reason not to believe the woman, and you're supposed to believe these strong, tough, powerful men who've been caught lying a million times inside the Trump administration. It's ridiculous. Zampoli is now a special envoy for global partnerships and a member of the Kennedy Center Board of Trustees, which, by the way, Trump only put his most closest sycophants on the Kennedy Board of Trustees because he is obsessed with recreating that thing in his image. And thank God the courts basically shut him down on that. And it sounds like they're going to hand control of it back to Congress. But I don't know. But that's again, it's another tell about how close they were. Unaro was 17 when she boarded Epstein's private jet, quote, the so-called Lolita Express, which I feel compelled to remind people, as always, that Donald Trump purchased Jeffrey Epstein's plane during the 2024 presidential campaign. I don't know if it was the same plane or not, but he purchased a plane to use when his broke down. That was the same one that Jeffrey Epstein used, which, again, crazy. On a flight from Paris to New York in June 2002, she was accompanied by then-agent French modeling scout Jean-Luc Brunel, who was also a recruiter for Epstein. Again, very small, tight-knit group of people. The pair spent years moving in the same social circles as the Trump and were photographed alongside Donald and Melania Trump at Mar-a-Lago events. Unaro has also made headlines last year accusing Zampoli of using his influence in Washington to trigger her arrest by U.S. immigration authorities amid an ongoing custody dispute. Zampoli, however, strongly denies this, as does the Department of Homeland Security. And guys, again, we don't actually know what happened, but we can speculate on what happened here because they lie about everything. The Department of Homeland Security, perhaps more than any other agency inside the Trump administration, lies about what the hell they are doing all the time.
One thing we can say that we're getting from this is that the truth is not coming out and that a lot of fabricated, beating around the bush type comments are coming out from the people in power. We're getting absolutely nowhere with things being released from the Epstein files and people going down for participating in things that were done from Jeffrey Epstein and his network. It just seems like we're beating around the bush and just trying to continuously divert the attention onto other things, which is definitely very frustrating.
Okay, Kristi Noem stole all of that money. She's certainly not going to give it back. By the way, there's nobody at the DOJ taking that seriously. They lie about the attacks on immigrant communities. They lie about everything. At every level of this administration, you shouldn't believe a single thing that any of these people say. And I still will approach this story with a healthy dose of skepticism because I don't know what Melania Trump did or didn't do with Jeffrey Epstein. I'll let you make the decision to connect the dots in your own head about what you believe, but you are left to make that determination simply because these people refuse to be honest with you about anything. Donald Trump will look you in the eye and tell you gas prices are cheaper now than they were a couple months ago. Donald Trump will look you in the eye and tell you that the AI-generated image he posted of himself as Jesus Christ is actually him as a doctor. So if they'll lie about stupid shit, that's easy for us to know, things that we can see with our eyes and feel. What do you think they're going to lie when it comes to stuff that we can't know?
I guess this guy's really not a Trump fan, huh?
Like whether or not they had this woman deported and arrested for speaking out about Melania Trump lying about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, come on. The latest claim, which was posted on Ungaro's X account, has now been deleted, but has once again put the Epstein saga under the spotlight, with Unaro suggesting that Zampoli was, quote, covering for Melania and vice versa after he was given a position of power within the administration. This directly contradicts statements the First Lady made earlier this year when she told reporters, quote, I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. The initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. Oh, well, good. Your biographer wrote it. The ghostwriter that you hired to write your book put it in Melania. So now I'm just supposed to believe this version of events.
And I mean, her saying something is just as good as it being written in her book because she okayed everything that was written in her book. So it doesn't mean it's the actual truth of what went down because it's in her book, Melania.
Like, again, these people shape the narrative in a direction of where they want it to go, and they do this consistently all the time, and they abuse the bully pulpit to convince you of things that are not true.
When Melania did that little press conference to try to clear her name of anything Epstein related, the way that she spoke about her book, Melania, it kind of felt to me like she was doing this to promote her book. There was a lot of spotlight on everything relating to the Epstein files, some of the most heated times for Epstein. So she would come on and mention how she had nothing to do with any of this stuff, and the details of it are in my book, Melania. It seemed like a commercial to try and sell more copies of her book.
And I'll also remind you that Melania Trump's press conference from a few months ago was one of the biggest gaslighting things I've ever seen in my entire life. It was crazy. The idea that she was one of Epstein's victims, I've never even heard anybody accuse her of that. I've never heard anybody say that. But she just brought that up willy-nilly. Everything about that press conference screamed, I'm trying to get in front of something. And maybe it was this or maybe it was something else. I don't know. But even the president seemed like he was confused by it. Even the White House seemed confused by it. Nobody knew it was coming. I did TV hits on conservative news earlier today, and they were like, Mike, why do you think she did this? They were just asking me that. And I was like, hell if I know why she did it, but clearly they're lying about something. They're worried about something. It's insane. I mean, here's a photo from that press conference. It's still, I think, if I was to rank like the 5 craziest things I think have happened in the last year and a half. I would probably put this on the list because I just do not understand it. Let's get back in for a second. Quote, the first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I'd never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertaking, she told reporters in April. I simply, again, maybe in the very beginning, she didn't know, but it was an open secret what these people were doing, particularly with underage girls. Like, I mean, come on. It was not clear at the time what had prompted the First Lady to make her statement, which seemed to even catch the president by surprise. But around the same time, a series of posts from Unaro began appearing online as direct replies to Melania's archived First Lady account, claiming to know her and threatening to, quote, expose everything that I know. Here's a photo of Unaro there. I was a former Brazilian model. Quote, she knows that I witnessed highly compromising interactions over the course of 20 years, Unaro said in an interview with the Courier in April, without providing details. According to files released by the Justice Department, a one-time assistant to Epstein also told the FBI, effectively under penalty of perjury, that the pedophile introduced Trump and Melania. So again, add that to the list of things to know, okay? Somebody went under oath, under penalty of perjury, and said that the pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, introduced Trump and Melania to each other.
Yeah, and there's no reason, in my opinion, minus being bitter that she was arrested and escorted out of the country, for her to do any of this. I feel like if her life was kind of ruined from them, she would try to just be as far away from them as possible, not come back with statements right now, which could have some backlash on her.
Add that to the autobiographer for Prince Andrew, add that to this, because there are a lot of people who have come forward to say this, and this person's doing it by putting their life on the line. So if it's a lie, then Donald Trump's DOJ better be going after them, okay? Zampoli has nonetheless maintained for years that he was responsible after recruiting Melania to his New York agency. Seems pretty clear to me, an obvious quid pro quo. He's going to pluck this guy, he's going to give him promotions, he's going to put him in positions of power where he can surely steal and do favors for his friends and look powerful and important while keeping and maintaining this lie to his close friend, Donald Trump. Here they all are all together again. So, quote, even without an attorney, I am volunteering to go to Congress to testify about this because we have seen enough of this nonsense, he told the Daily Beast in an earlier interview as he recalled playing Cupid. I said, Melania, meet Donald, Donald, meet Melania, and then I left the table because I had 300 guests. Listen, nobody believes this, all right? I certainly do not believe this again, but I'll also remind you, an offer to go testify to Congress is useless with Republicans in charge of Congress because they're not making these people go under oath and they're not doing it publicly. When Democrats take over next year, if they win the House, which I believe they will, when they take over, everything needs to happen in front of Congress. Everything needs to be on the record. Everything needs to be recorded and released to the American people. And if they don't show up, subpoena them and hold them in contempt of Congress.
That's actually a great point and a great question. With new presidential people coming in next year, whoever they may be, Republican, Democrat, but new, is it going to change the release of these files? Assuming, I mean, this all started happening in January. We're now in June. It's been months, and we're basically sitting in a stagnant position here. So with the new administration coming in, with new faces in the presidential spot, is it going to change? It very well could change and can completely blow open everything relating to the Epstein files. And then potentially all of our questions will be answered. Let me know your thoughts. And if you want to dive deeper into the Epstein files, you're going to go check out this video. And remember, guys, I'll see you over there.